Good morning, everybody, and this is your DAX day trade setup for today. So a big question here is, do we have inverse head and shoulders, which is this area here, and we've tested the neckline last week, or do we have some sort of a channel like that? And are we looking at a bit of a wedge inside the channel like that? So those are the scenarios we have. These upper areas and lower areas are still very much in play, and if we start dropping down through the time frames, you'll start seeing quite a bit of structure that's forming. So look at the oscillators, nice double top on the oscillators. Little bit of divergence, not really that clear, but this here could very well be a double top. So if I start adding that level in there, which would then break the wedge that's formed, what are we looking at? We're looking at a break to the downside. And it depends how you draw the wedge, whether we draw it like I've drawn it here, or if you take it along the top there. If you take it along the top there, then this area here is basically the target, which is 14,308. So looking at those oscillators, definitely don't want to be running long there. We've got a inside bar off a level, and then a bit of follow through that's happened. If we drop down to the hour, and we got going pretty strongly yesterday. We had a London breakout strategy, or so we call it a DAX breakout strategy, that played out pretty well, and back to the top of the range, and then we rejected the top of the range. So for me right now, there are a few things on the card, and I just want to delete diagonals. Let's get rid of this one. Right, so at this stage, if you're looking at the hour, there is a breakout retest here. And if you look to the left, you've got quite a bit of interaction with it, and just a little bit lower than that as well. So basically between 14,518 and 14,438, there is a cluster of support here. Now look at the oscillators. Oscillators are starting to group to the downside, or heading to the downside at the moment. So whereas yesterday we said whenever the oscillators are grouped like this, you're not really interested in this. We've had the sell-off. Is this just the reset for another attempt through at this level? And remember, this 14,686, if you look on the weekly, it's a fairly strong area that we need to pay attention to. So right now, I'm kind of sit on hands at the moment. We are sort of big up, big down, big up, big down, sort of going sideways, still drifting sideways. But if we do form a higher low here, that would be the third higher low. That was the first one, second one, and third one. And that's an ever so slightly higher high, but not a clear break of the range for me anyway. So this is a zone to be paying attention to this morning. And if you look at it on the 15-minute, you're really getting sort of inside bars, and you're getting a bit of structure here. Thing is, we're below the moving averages right now. So for me to start looking at longs, we're going to have to get above the high of this morning, which is this area here, 14,623. And that's the only thing that's going to really get me long, is a decent break above there and a retest, and then an attempt at this 14,686, and then to see if we get through that. Definitely not looking to be long over here at the moment, not based on where we are in relation to the moving averages, and also not based on what I'm seeing on the hour here. Any break below 14,438 is going to get messy. I think that would validate a fairly decent double top, and more than likely break the range to the bottom, which would then set up another double top, triple top scenario if we break below this area at 14,308, and that's going to get us moving pretty swiftly down to start tagging some of these tails to the downside. So if you're reading between the lines, for me, this is very much still a sit on hands. There was not really any structure yesterday. I mean, this was a break, didn't really get it. We had another break here. If we use this level, there's a cluster of support there that we got through, so you could argue that that was a support, that was support there for moves to the upside, very possible. But yeah, it's still too sideways for me. I'm really not interested in getting dragged into this. Every time you think you've got it, and then it sort of heads in the opposite direction, and that's the challenge with ranges. Hindsight, we are still in an upward trend on the hour. That's a bit of a messy one. Keep dropping below the moving averages onto the 155. So for as long as that happens, I suppose we should be looking to buy into this. But it's just, I don't think I've got the appetite for it at the moment. So anyway, that's kind of the view that I have at the moment. If you are on the 15-minute and you've got time to watch this, it's well worth just paying attention to what happens at these levels. So long as we don't drop below 14,438, that would drop below the 155 and then start triggering a retest that for a rollover to the downside. But so long as we don't drop below that, and we sort of, the moving averages stay in this pattern, blue above red. So in other words, what we want is a 33 above the 60. Then it should be another leg up, or at least another attempt at 14,686. 14,686 breaks and gives way. Then we've got, we're out of the chaos, and we should have a pretty solid move to the upside. Anyway, that's kind of my view at the moment. So not really interested in this, sitting on hands and just being patient. Hope it helps, and we'll catch up with you tomorrow morning. Cheers for now.